Hello. Over the last month, we've talked about how AI is allowing anyone to vibe code a healthcare app in a matter of days. You've got the prototype and the vibe is right, but as we've learned, the security architecture is probably full of holes. So how do you cross the finish line and make that AI-generated code fully HIPAA compliant? Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the HIPAA Insider Show. I'm your host, Adam Z. Before we dive into today's discussion, please take a quick second to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an update on healthcare data security and compliance. Joining me today is our resident expert and the CTO of HIPAA Vault, Gil Vidals. Gil, it's been quite a month so far.
It has been a very busy month, and I'm glad that I was able to join this podcast. Should be an interesting topic for the audience.
Yeah, exactly. So we've had a couple of guest episodes recently. In episode 106, Frank Leveneur warned us about the risks of vibe coding and what they pose to healthcare data integrity. Then last week, Mike Armistead broke down the critical security gaps that AI-assisted coding introduces to new apps. But the reality is the genie's out of the bottle, right? So we're seeing a massive influx of founders and clinicians bringing us these AI-built MVPs. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's been quite a revelation, actually, for both of us as we were receiving phone calls and chats from these medical professionals.
Moving at the speed of AI.
Yeah, we call them armchair software engineers. You know, they've never coded anything in their life. So that's been a big eye opener. And what we've learned from this is that the software they're building, the platforms they're building, are quite extensive. I mean, here I thought they were going to be little kludgy scripts, you know, that do maybe one little functionality, but no, these are full-featured platforms, the kind that you would pay, you know, $100, $300 a month to be part of a platform that does A to Z, very well done. So that's the good news. That's the good part, is that this AI seems to be working well, and these people are developing a platform that satisfies the needs of their clients. And so that part's the exciting part. I don't know from the last episode you were in if there was anything discussed on the positive side about this in terms of what kind of code is being produced.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the positive side, it's that there's a lot of innovation coming. Now there's going to be a lot of those apps that fail, obviously, but on the positive side, there's going to be a number of them that succeed. I think on this episode, we wanted to break down a little bit more about how we can take the vibe coding or the armchair developer, take them from having an idea all the way to having a production related app. And I know that's a long that's a lot of things to cover, so we'll keep it brief for a Friday afternoon, right? But like, could you talk a little bit about the framework a bit? Like, when a vibe coder gives us a project, what does that code base look like typically from a security standpoint? You know, holes and
yeah. Well, I want to back up just a little bit. So what my observation is that those that have developed a good platform that seems to be at least satisfying the needs of their community, their user base, are the ones that are they have a passion. They really intimately know what their clientele needs, and maybe they've been doing it manually for years. So they're intimately familiar with the workflow.
Yeah.
They know zero about technology and zero about software, but because they know the process intimately, they're able to write down for the AI exactly what they want in detail. And that's an important point. If they don't have that kind of familiarity, then the platform is not going to be very good. So let's put that aside. Then, so what happens? But anyway, to kind of catching up to where you are, Adam, what do we do now? Like, they come to us, they say, hey, I've got my application, I'm ready to go. There's a couple of challenges. One is, well, how do we get it from wherever it's hosted? Maybe it's Replit or Base44, one of those vibe coding platforms. How do we get it from there over to us? Secondly, once it's over to us, how do we know it's good code? And then thirdly, how do they update the code? Let's say they've gone through all of that, they've migrated it, but how do you keep the software up to date? How do they do that? Because now they've got their platform where they're doing the vibe coding, and then they're hosted with HIPAA Vault, let's say, and they want to change the code every week or every day or whatever, and they want to be able to keep that up. So there's quite a few challenges after having created that. And you're asking some great questions. Really, the big concern too is, well, is the code up to par with security standards? And that's a real concern that the community at large has expressed. Is like, how do you know what's happening? So from our experience and what we've seen, some of the code is not very optimized. It won't scale too well. Like it might work for a few users. When I say a few, I don't literally mean like 3, but it could be a few hundred even. But that's anyway, at some point, it's going to slow down because the code wasn't written with optimization in mind. And as far as security, a lot of the code wasn't written with security in mind because these people aren't professional software engineers. And what I've seen happening, Adam, there are some consultants that are starting to come out of the woodwork, as they say, and they're starting to offer their services to go through the code. And guess what? They're going to use AI too, which is kind of a funny thing, right? They're going to use AI, but the difference is that security expert knows how to prompt the AI and say, "Hey, check for these things." And the person that they don't know, even know what to look for.
Well, on the you mentioned a prompt there. We use magic prompts at that initial discovery phase. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that. But yeah, the idea being whether they're in Replit or Cursor or whatever vibe coding app they're using, once we make that initial understanding of what they're building the app on, we can send them a prompt to paste into their AI so that we get an idea of what the app looks like, right? And we can glean a little bit initially from that.
Yeah, that's really powerful, the way I notice you've been handling that. You, like you said, you have a great prompt, and the prompt that you give the vibe coder is just a prompt that will reply back with the architecture of their site. It tells us all the basic information we need to know, and that's really important because we need to know, how is this thing built and what do we need to do in order to be able to migrate that site over and have it run successfully. So that's kind of the starting point.
Yeah. I was just going to see if I could find, an example. I'm not going to go through the exact magic prompt because it differs based on what type of, app you're building what type of tool you're building the app on. But to give an idea, we ask like what the tech stack and runtime is, what database is being used, what type of storage is being used, any external connections like third-party APIs. Is it set up using something like Docker? How are the assets handling? Does the app allow users to upload images and other files, etc.? So there's some of the things that we're trying to understand at the early stage, because then that'll allow us to move to the next stage, which we're going to talk about briefly as well, Gil. So how do we architect a secure environment typically for these apps?
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So when you as a vibe coder or whoever's vibe coding they're ready, they go, look, my platform's down, I'm ready to roll. At that point, they look for a home. Like, where am I going to move this thing in to be HIPAA compliant? So what that implies is that wherever they are hosted now, that's not HIPAA compliant, they won't sign a BA. They're not promoting themselves as a HIPAA compliant home for your platform. So at HIPAA Vault, we do offer that service. But when you move in, think about what we do. We're building a secure environment. So all of the things that contain the application, the shell per se, there's a lot of moving parts. A lot of things are happening in the container where this thing is going to live. So we're securing that. Now, the application, 99.9% of the companies you deal with, I can't even think of any. They're going to say, oh yeah, don't worry, we're going to look at your application. That's well above and beyond what you're paying for. And so the vibe coder has to realize that, yes, you're going to get a secure home. And yes, the windows are going to be tightened up, the security alarm's on, all the doors are going to have latches, there's going to be a security guard walking around the building. But inside, what's happening inside the building, the application itself could have some significant weaknesses that only the author of that platform is going to potentially know about or be able to fix, because no one is going to want to touch the application unless the owner of the application authorizes them to and pays for someone to go in there and start changing their code, right? Because that's their baby. They don't want anyone touching that. So I think, as you can see, this is a bit sticky, right? There's no clean magic bullet. Now, one thing that I think is going to happen, Adam, that might be kind of exciting, I think what's going to happen eventually is that the vibe coders are going to understand that if they instruct their platform with guardrails, they're going to have these documents. They're called Markdown. Now, what Markdown means, just as a quick side note, that's just the language that the AI talks about. Like everybody knows what HTML is, you know what a Google Doc is, that kind of thing. Well, AI talks in Markdown language. So you create a document and you tell the AI, hey, look through my code and make sure that I have these security challenges addressed. So I think in the future, we as HIPAA Vault would be able to go to the client and say, hey, you're still over there developing your platform. Why don't you put these files in there and have the AI read through the Markdown guardrails and look through the code and point out any areas of weakness and make suggestions on how to fix that. So I think that's around the corner. I think that should be happening within, a few months at the longest.
And that would elevate the security to the application and code level, right?
Yeah, that would be the first round, because these vibe coders aren't doing anything when it comes to security. And I think they have the concept in their mind that if they take this and host it with any secure hosting provider, that somehow magically that's going to make their application secure. I don't think they realize that the application itself, the code, the syntax, the way it's written has to be done in a secure way. And they don't really know about that, because that's not their world, right? They're medical professionals writing software, and they're not exposed to that. So I think that's the challenge. I think that's where we are in the evolution. Remember, this has only started this year.
Yeah.
Very, very, very early days. So you can imagine there's a long, long way to go here. And I'm excited. I think this is a great thing. I see the benefits where these medical professionals have had an idea in their minds for probably years, and they finally can make it happen. And think about, instead of spending $500,000, they spend $500.
Yeah.
Quite a 99.99% discount. So pretty amazing. But we just tell the armchair developers to be careful to think about it from a security point of view. They can Google security, software security best practices, and ask AI to generate a Markdown guide, a guide in Markdown format. So it's funny that we've talked. It's kind of like a dog chasing a tail. We're saying there could be problems with the AI generated code, but then when the answer is go back to AI and provide it the instructions it needs to improve the code.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, okay, I know we want to keep it kind of brief today. One last thing is, once we've got the correct architecture, we've worked with the app developer or the armchair developer to bring the code into the new environment. Before we go live, there's a testing phase, right? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Typically, these are brand new platforms. They've been developing it for the last few months. They have it ready. It's never been live anywhere, right? Other than in the platform they're developing in it. So normally they pick the website name, the domain name. We get that up and running for them, and then we have them test it. We'll typically have them just log in, test the application, make sure it's running as expected. And then at that point, once they say it's ready, then we make the site live, meaning the IP is activated. The site is now publicly available.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Yeah. And then I think the other thing to add is that once it's live, we're regularly running vulnerability scans, like you said, to check that all the windows are closed and, the door is shut and all the infrastructure stays solid. And yeah, I think it is in stages. Like you said, it's early days. So you start out, you just want something that works app wise, and then you want to start to secure it, which is where we come in. You work on the infrastructure, then you work on the code, and then eventually down the line as well, once the app gets going and it's somewhat used, you're going to want to have a third-party auditor come in as well later down the line. So that's the life cycle that we see with traditional apps. So it's no different in that way, right? It's just the new tools that are being used and new people that are responsible for delivering it. Okay, well, Gil, thank you very much for another fascinating episode. I'm sure the users will agree. Is there anything else to close us out with?
No, I just, like I said at the very beginning, it's super exciting to see what these medical professionals and non-software engineers are able to produce. It's really blowing their minds and mine as well. And just more power to you. I think it's going to be good for the community at large, but we have to be so mindful of security.
Fantastic. Thanks, Gil, for breaking down our process today. And thank you to our audience for joining us on this ongoing journey of compliance through the AI revolution. If you found this episode valuable, again, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. We're on a journey to 1,000 subscribers, and share it with a fellow developer or fellow armchair developer. Until next week, stay secure and stay compliant.